Secrets of the C-Suite, the podcast, is for anyone interested in leadership and the wins, losses, and lessons of being an executive. We are two women who have successfully navigated C-Suite roles and are sharing our experiences. We will be bringing on guests to tell their stories and want to spark honest conversation and discussion, which may include swearing and lots of laughs. Join us on this adventure. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Secrets of the C-Suite. First things first, a big thank you to our listeners. Whether you've been with us from the beginning or just discovered the show, we appreciate you more than you know. We're excited to get to today's guest, the incredible Lisa Amador, in just a moment. But before we do, I want to greet my co-host and partner in all things leadership, Susan Sutherland. Hi, Susan.
What a lovely intro, Juliet. How are you?
I'm working on it.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. As I mentioned before we started recording, I'm a little tired. I've had a really intense, busy couple of months, and this is the first day where I didn't have anything scheduled, and I've just been walking around in a bit of a daze. But I'm good. Like it's nice to have that experience. Yeah. How about you?
I'm good. I have some guests coming today. I have a busy day ahead of me. Some high school friends, and we're going to a holiday parade in town here. So a very small town event, which is really cute and just makes me happy. So
yeah. And speaking of the holidays, it is December, which much to my shock. How are you thinking about December and year end, and the 2026 is right around the corner?
My first reaction was, oh shit. I didn't do any of the things. I didn't do any of the things that I said I was going to do this year. But then I went back and I said, well, actually. But I think one of the things that I've done before in December and I'm repeating this December is trying to focus on health while there's just insane amount of unhealthy things going on. So, working on making sure I'm exercising every day, doing those types of things. But also, I'm not eating sugar in December, which people think is a very strange thing. But one thing leads to another when you have sugar. And now that I'm working in an office and I'm not working from home and remote, it's everywhere. It's just every day somebody's bringing something in that they baked and it all looks yummy. But I've decided I'm just not having any of it. So that's it's good, though. It's really good.
Yeah.
And super helpful. So that's
what I love about that Juliet is obviously there's a piece of that that's about not eating sugar, which might lead to more sugar or to who knows what, right? But it's that mental discipline that pays you back, right? You're making a choice and you're going to stick with it. And I can hear that it's not going to be much of a problem for you to stick with it. And how empowering is that?
It's great. And you're right. It's not that hard for me. I'm not a huge sugar fan, but I find it to be unconscious. Like it's just so easy to pick up, someone opens a box of See's candy and so if you just say you're not doing any, it makes it a lot easier. So that's what I'm doing. How about you?
I am, as you know, headed back to the U.S. Since I'm in South Africa at the moment, headed back to the U.S. for Christmas because I think it's important when your mom's 92 and it's her favorite holiday that maybe I show up for that once a year. So we're trying it this year to see how that goes, but then I'll be in San Francisco. So I'll be in this changing time zone and kind of mentally shifting from South Africa to the East Coast and then the West Coast. And my number one wish for myself is that I stick to my physical workouts, that I go for walks, and that I do my weights workouts 3 times a week, since I'm just now getting into that routine. I would really hate to find myself in January going, well, I just kind of fucked off in December. I don't want that.
No. And again, it's not a small thing, but it's something you can really focus on, and you don't have to be doing this and I'm doing this and I'm not going to do this anymore, and you're not punishing yourself.
It's one thing, and I think I can stick to it like yours.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. All right. With that, let's invite our guest to the conversation. Today on Secrets of the C-Suite, we're joined by Lisa Amador, a leader whose career has been anchored in community, connection, and purpose. Lisa began in Sonoma County as general manager of several radio stations before being recruited by Sutter Medical Center, where she helped launch its philanthropy program, led marketing and communications for the new hospital, and eventually expanded into operations, business development, and strategic planning. Her work played a key role in opening Sutter's medical campus in 2014, which, aside, is beautiful, and supporting its major expansion. Lisa returned to philanthropy and leads efforts across 3 California counties, work deeply rooted in her belief in relationships and shared purpose. Speaking of, and on a personal note, I know Lisa as the leader of the warm, passionate, truly extraordinary team behind Graciana Winery in Healdsburg, where her family turned a teenage son's garage winemaking experiment into a beloved and expressive family venture. Can't wait to talk to her more about that. Lisa, we're thrilled to have you with us today on Secrets of the C-Suite.
Well, I'm so honored to be here, and December is a great month to celebrate a lot of things, and that's what I'm looking forward to in December, and also taking a little break leading into the first part of the year before we open the tasting room again.
The tasting room closes from December 1st, right, through March 31st. We'll talk more about that. Susan, you had a question?
Yeah, it sounds like you're going to get a little bit of a break in there. And what does that look like for you?
A break is, there's some planning. We're finishing off the holidays and the winery. So we're finishing the holidays off. A lot of Christmas people coming in to buy gifts for Christmas and send things to their friends and family. That'll tail off about the 15th or 20th of this month. And then we go into a planning phase. And in February is when my husband and I will go to the beach and do nothing and sit on the beach. All that said, I'm still work full-time at Sutter Santa Rosa Regional Hospital and Sutter Health in general. So that still goes on. So I'm in my busy season and I'm trying to close out the year for our philanthropic efforts in the North Bay. So that job doesn't tail out until December 31. So still a lot going on in my world.
Yeah. And so really the break comes in February when you make it through year end and through the push in both of your roles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's take a step back. And Lisa, I introduced your journey, but if you could take us deeper into that journey, that would be great.
Well, I'm thinking back to the bio I sent you and, purpose, people, and clarity. And that actually comes through the journey at the beginning of my career, which really started after college. And I went into work in an advertising agency. I was there and I wasn't necessarily feeling it. And so I ended up taking a 6-month trip to Asia with a girlfriend of mine to try to climb the mountain and kind of figure out what is it that I really want to do. I thought that when we got to Nepal, when we were hiking up to Kalapatar, you could see Mount Everest, that I was going to have that moment and say, oh, this is what I really want to do. And I got up there, we were at 17,000 feet. I was looking over at Mount Everest and it didn't happen. I walked down the mountain. And ended up going back home after a 6-month incredible journey. That was in 1986. And I came home and I went back into the advertising agency business. But what I really ended up doing after that was jumping the desk and going into the radio business, because when I was in the advertising agency business, I was a buyer. So I was buying media time. So I was buying radio and I was buying TV and I was buying outdoor billboards. And so I thought, gosh, I can do their job and I could make more money, the people that were selling me the airtime. And so I jumped the desk. And so I went into the radio business. That path led me to being a salesperson, which I kind of felt like I always had that innate sales ability for quite some time. And I built up and I became the general manager of 4 radio stations here in Sonoma County, the Fox, Froggy, Casero, and the River at the time. So I was a general manager there for 12 years when I got a phone call from a recruiter that said, we would like to talked to you about working at Sutter Medical Center of Santa Rosa, I fortunately was on the phone and they couldn't see my face because I thought, geez, I could never imagine myself in healthcare. Then I thought, well, wait a minute, I'm going to turn the table here and they're not on the airwaves here. So I'm going to go see if I can meet the CEO and sell him some radio time. And so this turned out to be a very long interview process. It was several months and through several meetings. And finally I said to the recruiter, when do I get to meet the CEO? And they said, well, actually that's going to be your next meeting. So I went to this meeting and it was the CEO and 3 of the board members, the fiduciary board members at the hospital. And they challenged me. They basically said, are you willing to do something for your community? Radio is all fine and good, but you can really make a difference here. We're a not-for-profit healthcare system. We're taking care of the community. Health is important. Why don't you think about doing something meaningful and join us and lead our philanthropic program, Marketing, Communications, and Community Benefit? And so that was really a challenge and kind of a pivot in the road. And so that part of your life is really important, is to kind of be open and listen and kind of digest and kind of think about what those opportunities were. So they made me an offer. It was a great offer, and I decided to take the jump. So I left a 12-year career in the radio business as general manager and went and became the executive director of philanthropy at the hospital in Santa Rosa and started building that program. My career changed there as well when, after I'd been there for about a year and a half, CEO of the hospital came out for a drink and basically told me that we were going to close the hospital and he needed me to be his wingman, if you will, to help close it. And so I said, I'm going to be working myself out of a job. And he said, yeah, you're going to be working yourself out of a job. Well, that did not happen. And that's a very long, involved story that would be over many glasses of wine. But the hospital didn't close. And but it was a trailblazing experience, about a year and a half of doing things that I'd never thought or people hadn't done before. So that was the pinnacle, really, of my career, I believe, because it was a lot of trailblazing and doing things that had never been done before and kind of writing the book about trying to close a hospital and then not closing a hospital and then reopening a hospital and then building a new hospital and then expanding a hospital and then also having the 2017 fires come up to the doors of the hospital and evacuating a hospital. So lots of different things happened at that point in my career before I landed back in philanthropy again in 2019. So it's been a very rewarding career. I'm still there. I'm still enjoying it. It's just a very community-based people and health and things that are really important as we get older and realize how much we're grateful for and how much our health matters to us.
I love that. That's such a great underlying theme of your career and your exploration into this industry that you knew nothing about. And you had asked us before we started recording, so I'm going to chime in here about why we're doing this podcast and what this podcast is all about. You're talking a lot about doing things you've never done before. And the premise of the podcast, and I think we remind people from time to time, remind our listeners from time to time why we're doing this. We want to demystify leadership and help people understand that we're all doing things for the first time. And a lot of times we actually don't know what we're doing. We're just winging it and figuring it out as we go. Part of the reasoning behind us wanting to share experiences of leaders with other people, and especially people who are new to leadership or have aspirations in leadership, is to help them understand that there's no real trick here. There is just confidence and knowing that you can figure things out and finding the right people to get on your team and building systems and taking chances. And a lot of our guests have talked about, taking advantage of opportunities when they rise. And that's something you did, where you said yes. And sometimes that is a key to leadership. So I find that really inspiring, kind of how you got to where you are now. And you kind of managed yourself in and out of jobs a few times, it sounds like to me.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So-
added jobs.
Yeah, and added jobs, which we'll talk about in a minute, your whole other full-time job. I just had a question about, we have people who listen to us and who've been guests who are from the for-profit industry and the nonprofit industry, and you were in sales in the media world, the radio world, and then you moved to philanthropy. And is there a difference there? And if so, what is that? How does it change when you're selling and versus raising money?
Well, there's a big difference between selling and raising money. And because you're in philanthropy, you're actually building a relationship. So they call it development, and you're developing relationships. But there is an underlining sales aspect to it, because you have to ask for the money. You have to ask for the order, if you will. So there is a lot of things that go in hand. It's just a longer sales process. So it's less transactional philanthropy, where selling radio, for example, is very transactional. You sell, you ask for an order, they say yes or no, you air it, you ask again, you keep going. In philanthropy, you're developing a relationship with somebody, you're developing trust with someone to have them give you hundreds of thousands, multi-million dollars to support a cause, to support health in this case, to support cancer services, to support children's services or cardiac services. So there's a little bit difference in the longer time it takes to make an impact. And philanthropy is a different type of investment than the sales process.
That's amazing. So how have you navigated philanthropy in Sonoma County, and how do you developing those relationships? And they do take time. I've been in the nonprofit sector for a long time, and I do understand that. But when you are selling health, you're selling results, you're selling ideas, what is your approach? What do you lean on in terms of your leadership and your confidence?
Well, the approach and what I do is about grateful patience. So if it's someone that's used our services, that understands the value of what we're doing, so you have a connection. I know that one of the things that you want to talk about is purpose. And so what's really important is that I have a purpose in my leadership role, and that I find other people that have a purpose, and that we connect on that purpose. Then you need to ask about the inspiration and understand the inspiration behind it, what they want to do, leaving a legacy, naming opportunity to have their name, up and be associated in public or anonymously. But why is that important to them? Really digging down and saying, why is that important to that person? Why is it important to me when I'm talking to that person that could be giving a large gift? So purpose is really important, connecting to purpose. What inspires me, what inspires the person that I'm talking to, why it's important to me, and why it's important to them. So it's all about that connectivity.
I love that. That's so good. When I think about inspiration, you were talking about your first job as a manager. It sounds like when you were a general manager in the radio stations. Can you tell me about your first leadership role and what that was like and what you learned as a new leader?
I was a sales manager at the radio station, so I had several people that were reporting to me. They were out there selling on the street. And the important part was to be able to connect to them. And so that's like a second phase of leadership. First is purpose, then it's people. You really need to know the people you're working with. You need to be able to get to their level. So in other words, it wasn't just them selling, I was selling too. But it wasn't just us selling, it was about me knowing who that person was. All of my team. I wanted to know about their family. I wanted to know what their hobbies were. I wanted to know where they were going on vacation. I wanted to, again, go back to connect to purpose. I wanted to know who they were. I wanted to know what inspired them. And I wanted to know why it inspired them. Because if we could have that connectivity, we could go out there and sell, and they would be selling not only for the product that they believed in, but they would be selling for the team. And so that teamwork is really important in the process.
That's so great. How did you learn that?
I think it's kind of really somewhat self-taught. I'm a very curious person. So I want to know about people. I want to see what makes them tick. And I have this very strong desire to win. And I know I can't do that on my own. I know it takes a team to make that happen. So you need to know your team.
You're very articulate about connecting with individuals, both if they're on your team, as well as people maybe that you're selling to, or that you are soliciting for donations and grants. What, if any, training have you done around team building, or has it all just come naturally to you and self-taught over the years?
You mean, have I gone to trainings? Is that what your question is?
Yeah, and have you, as you lead teams, do you do team building exercises with them, or is it more one-on-one relationship building?
So I've been through a lot of different trainings through my career. Fortunately, the companies I've worked for, whether it be in the radio business or in the healthcare business, there's a lot of training that goes on. And you always glean things from different inspirational trainers in different things. So I think I've gleaned all that, many things, and stolen. He who steals from me steals twice, if you haven't heard that before. So I've gleaned a lot over many years to kind of develop my own personal style. And again, that's the part of being open and being willing to look at other avenues and other ways of doing things. We always have to be on a continuous learning path. I think that I have to kind of develop my own style from hearing and listening and gleaning things from different people along the way. And as far as, connecting that back to the team, the people I work with, I learn from them too. So this is not just a one-way street, but I listen to what they are saying, and I learn things from my team as well. I also really look about them and listen to them and find out what their skill sets are, because those are the ones that they feel comfortable with, but there's also things that they want to learn as well. So you want to help them learn in those areas or help round those skill sets. So there's a lot of individual work that's done with individuals to build the team. And then you bring the entire team together and you have them understand who their teammates are.
I love what you're describing, Lisa, and what I think I was kind of fishing around for was my sense that you are really smart intellectually and you're curious. And so you are learning things that like methodologies and approaches, and you're paying attention to your work environment and systems, but you're showing up as human with your intuition on and your relationship building skills front and center. So you're always evolving and engaged, you're fully engaged in your roles. At least that's how it strikes me. And I feel like that deserves underscoring.
Well, thank you. I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think the thing that I don't have that is a strength is ego. I don't have a big ego. So the success for me is the success of the project, the success of the team. It's not about my success. It's about everybody's success. And I think no ego, I think, is a very strong attribute of leadership.
How do you square that, Lisa, with what you said earlier, which is you have a strong desire to win?
We win as a team.
Good answer.
I love that. That's great. I want to talk about wine. Can we shift gears just a little bit? It's not a big change because it's also part of your leadership, but you also have a parallel journey, and that is the wine industry and how I know you. But take us on that journey if you don't mind.
Well, as you mentioned earlier in the podcast, we caught our son making wine in the garage when he was 15. And that, again, was another kind of pathway that opened our eyes to thinking about our family. And, family is number one. Work is number two, but very serious on both sides of those things. And we realized that he had a very strong desire to learn about making wine. And we thought, we really want to teach our kids about not just the regular routine of life, meaning, we'd like you to go to college. We would hope that you would get married and have kids because we want grandkids. But what about teaching them about business? And if he liked to do something, we wanted to encourage a growth path for him if that was something he was curious about. So this was an opportunity to take both of our kids. We have two, Ashley and Trini, and when they were at a very young age, and start to teach them about business and something that we were interested in, which was drinking wine. So we thought, hey, let's teach them about business, and let's see if we can, teach you something here about growing a brand. And so we went on that venture, and it was a very organic growth, and to what it is today. That was our first wine was made in 2007, and we made 50 cases of Pinot Noir and 50 cases of Zinfandel. And it just grew organically. And I think about that time, and it was very scrappy getting it started, but we learned a lot. And again, it goes back to what I call the PPC, the purpose, people, and clarity of starting something, and connecting to purpose and what was the inspiration and why we were doing it. And it was because of our kids and because of doing something with our family and teaching them about, the future of a business and what they could do. And it's been quite a mind-blowing experience to see where we are today with a small team, family winery that is knocking it out of the park. And again, the success is, I should say, failure is not an option. So we grew it together.
Lisa, can you share with us how and in what ways your children are involved in the business, besides being the inspiration for it?
Yes. So our son's a winemaker. He makes all of the wine that we make, but he also has a full-time job as well. He's a vineyard manager over in the Napa region and manages a lot of acreage for other people. But he makes all the wine, and my daughter does some of the marketing stuff. She's not as active as my son is. My son is definitely going to be taking over the brand in the future.
I just have to chime in here. Your wine has been amazing. I think I've been a member. I met you in 2014, and it was before the season was opening, and I was referred to you by a mutual friend of ours. I asked if we could just come with my girlfriends. We were having a girls' weekend, and come and be at the winery, and you opened the winery for us, which was really nice and allowed us to taste. I hope we can say that on here and you don't get in trouble for that. But anyway, it was 2014, and the wine was just outstanding. It was so amazing. But I have to say, it has evolved. Your son's winemaking gets better every year. And I can't say enough about it. It's so good and so fresh. There's a uniqueness to the way he approaches it, and you can feel the love and care that he puts into it. It's really something. So plug for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I also want to say to our listeners, he's not 15 anymore. He's a full-grown human.
He's 41.
Oh my God.
He's in his 26th season of making wine. So he's made it, but he's a farmer. So he really makes wine from the inspiration from the growing of the fruit. You can't make great wine unless you grow great fruit. So he's a grower. And so he has that innate ability to understand what's going on when he gets into the winery and brings the fruit in to make fantastic wine. And you're right, it does get better every year. I mean, I think we all get better every year, right, ladies?
Yeah.
That is so true.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Lisa, we're running towards the end of our time with you, and this has been really fascinating. And I'm curious, so the way I'm thinking of you, and of course, Juliet knows you better than I do, you're a woman with a great deal of passion and energy and vision. And right now you've got two really pretty big roles in your life, and those are separate and distinct from family and friends and that sort of thing. So get to my question. What's next for you? Is there a chapter after this, and when might that be?
Well, I'm just going to continue to grow with what I'm doing now. There's always room to grow and learn and change things up. You can't be consistent and just stagnant at the same time. You always have to grow. So for me, I'm just on my continual path. Eventually I will retire from Sutter Health. There's no time frame around that right now at all. I enjoy it, and I really I'm successful at it. So I don't see when that's going to happen. But when it does, I will do more at the winery.
Cool. So just one more question for you, Lisa, and I think you've already indirectly answered it, but if there is a secret to leadership, what would you say that it is?
So it's not a secret. I think it's multiple things, and I kind of touched on each of those things during this conversation. But it's about purpose, it's about people, and it's about clarity. So again, purpose, and it's about the purpose is connecting. How are you connecting to your purpose? What inspires you and why? Always ask why. Ask why 10 times and understand what your purpose is. And then it's about people, and it's about the people you surround yourself with. And as a leader, you want to surround yourself with the best people. Well, that can relatively be somewhat easy to do if you take the effort to connect with them. If you take the effort to know who they are and beyond their work, and then know what their skill sets are and know where they want to go. And then finally, clarity. Having clarity about what your goals are, having clarity about what it is that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So that clarity is really important so that you keep your path going towards where you want your success to be.
Thank you, Lisa, for articulating that so beautifully. It sounds to me like the clarity is what allows people and their purpose to come together, and that gives them a sense of direction. And I hadn't quite thought about that particular word in the way that you have connected it to people and purpose. So I want to thank you for articulating that so beautifully.
I don't think we stop and think about the clarity part enough. And I really like that. That's something to definitely consider and revisit, I think, a bit, because we forget, right? We get all caught up in the day-to-day and the chaos and the mess, and we forget to remind ourselves what that clarity is. And I think we talked a little bit about that, Susan, that we have clarity for December. So that's good.
And on that note, I want to thank Lisa very much for joining us today and sharing her career and her insights and leadership with us, and giving us her time very generously. And with that, I want to thank our listeners for joining us. And I'll say, tune in to another episode of Secrets of the C-Suite, the podcast. You know where to find us. Please give us a 5-star review, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And Juliet and Lisa, thanks for being here with me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're so glad you've joined us for this episode of Secrets of the C-Suite, the podcast. We'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks. In the meantime, please tell your friends and coworkers about us, and be sure to follow, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed listening. Secrets of the C-Suite is produced by Juliet Clothier, Susan Sutherland, and Brian Clothier. Original music is by Brian Clothier, and the podcast is inspired by leaders like you.